Case in point, I suppose. Welcome back to ExtraHolidayGames. I'm ExtraHoliday, and it is later than I intended to record today, but I guess that's what happens when you end up napping for like 5 hours. Anywho, hi, we're playing Pokemon Pinball, if you didn't know by the thumbnail. That's the thing, is I always try to make sure that the game that I'm playing is obvious from the thumbnail. That is actually... So, for anyone who's curious, I actually have 3 rules for a thumbnail. And sometimes I'll break them, but generally, the idea is... The first rule is... someone who's looking at it, if they know the game, they should know what game I'm playing, right? So basically, for every... Pokemon Pinball isn't a great example because it's still the old style of thumbnail that I used to do. I'm talking mostly about my most recent ones, like the ones you'll see on Soul Calibur and other more recent series. So, yeah. For example, like, I always try to make sure that if you know the game Soul Calibur 6, then, and you see my thumbnail, you can tell that, you know, I'm playing Soul Calibur 6. And that actually stemmed from... Funnily enough, I've taken a lot of inspiration from the Game Grumps, but this was kind of like negative inspiration from them. Because I was looking at the thumbnails of their videos, I was like, okay, but what game are they playing? Because I was looking, and it was basically just like, you know, the little cartoon versions of themselves. And I was like, what does this tell me about the video? It tells me nothing. So, and I was like, I don't want to click on this because I have no idea what they're playing. So I was like, okay, that's when I said to myself, like, okay, for all my thumbnails, I'm going to make it clear what game that I am playing, at least to the people who have already played the game, or know it, or have watched it, or just know it well enough. So that's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is more of a accommodation for that one weird trick that'll get you tons of views on your YouTube video, quote unquote. It's to always have a face in the thumbnail. And that is, I've been told that is basically key to a good thumbnail. You'll notice a lot, or maybe not a lot, but at least some of my older series, the thumbnails for those, don't have faces. It's just like the title screen or whatever. Like, I think probably the best example of this is Gravity Rush, the first one. Those thumbnails were just like the title, Gravity Rush, and the episode number, which I also stopped doing. Also, I just realized there's a 4th rule. So, yeah. At some point, I was convinced that, like, okay, if I want people to actually watch these videos, which I do, then I need to probably start, you know, putting a face in there. I won't go so far as to put, you know, the red arrow and circle, but I at least try to make sure there's a face in there to draw the eye potentially. And then rule number 3 is that I need each video in a series to have a unique enough thumbnail that people can tell whether they've watched that episode or not. Because nothing annoys me more on YouTube than when I click on a video and realize I've already watched it and I don't want to watch it again. It feels like such a waste of time to me. It's like 2 seconds, but it's like, it's unpleasant regardless. So I try to avoid that. Similarly, actually, this is kind of a sub-rule for that rule. Once a video has a view, like a single view, I do not change the title or thumbnail. Because for the same reason, I don't want people to be like, have I watched this video before? And then click on it and realize they have. And that becomes a lot more likely when you change the video's thumbnail after someone's already watched it. They'll be much more likely to click on it again and then not realizing that it's the same video they've already seen. And yes, that is more views, but I think long term, the annoyance is a negative more than it is a positive, right? I think if they realize that you have a habit of changing your thumbnails, that's going to reflect negatively on you, which I'm going to go on potentially a little bit of a rant here, which is why I don't like YouTube's new feature that they have on the creator side of YouTube. If you don't know, they actually recently introduced a feature when you upload a video of basically you can upload 3 thumbnails, and then from those 3 thumbnails, YouTube will display different ones for a single video. And then based on, you know, how many views or how much watch time or whatever your analytics are, basically, it will pick one of them eventually. I do not like this. Because I've seen it in action on the user end, and it was annoying to me because I see a video and then I see a video with a thumbnail, and then I see a different thumbnail, and it's the same video that was suggested to me earlier. And I'm like, that just feels bad. You know, that feels almost manipulative to me. Like, oh, you didn't like it this way? Well, how about this way, huh? You know, maybe. Yeah, so I am not a fan of that feature. I don't see myself using it in the near future. It's just, I don't like it. What was my 4th rule that I came up with? I kind of forgot it. Okay, so there's face in the thumbnail. Oh yeah, my logo. I always try to put my logo, right? I always try to make sure that by looking at the thumbnail, you can tell that it's an EHG video. That doesn't necessarily go for stuff like stream VODs on the VOD channel, because I don't really make thumbnails for those. But on this channel, I always try to make sure like it's clear that this is a video on ExtraHolidayGames, right? Because that's another thing I want to know when I'm thinking about clicking on a video, is I want to know, okay, whose video is this? And I want to make that as obvious as possible without having to, you know, actually look at the name, which, you know, under certain circumstances can be kind of hard to read, and it's not as immediately recognizable as like a logo, you know. So yeah, those are my policies for thumbnails, my rules that I keep myself to most of the time. I think the one I break most often is probably the face rule, especially with games like Soul Calibur, because Soul Calibur does not give me a lot to work with. Oh yeah, I guess not a rule, but kind of part of my methodology is for not this series, but the newer series, the ones where I do the newer style of thumbnail. Okay, small bone is cool. I will... What I'll do, if you haven't noticed this already, you probably do, is I'll take a screenshot from the episode itself, and then I'll throw that onto kind of like a base image usually the image that I use for episode 1. Okay, I can't buy that right now. Honestly, I kind of just want to keep the money then. So yeah, I'll throw a screenshot from the episode into the thumbnail. And whatever I think is like the most interesting part. And again, usually I try to put a face in there. If there's not one in the base image, like so for Soul Calibur, for example, there isn't, because it's basically just the logo. Whereas for Penny, there is. So I wouldn't have to worry about that as much. But yes, I cut out part of a screenshot to use for the thumbnail, usually. So yeah, if you ever felt inspired by my thumbnails, which would be strange to me, but, you know, if you did, there's the ideas behind them. It is not terribly complicated, I wouldn't think, but I think I've put enough thought into it for it to be basically what I want it to be, for me to be fairly satisfied with it, I would say. I think it's a nice balance of, you know, I hate to say it, but artisticness with effectiveness and informativeness. I think they do their job well, my thumbnails. I think. I can't be sure because, you know, nothing is sure in the black box that is YouTube, but I am relatively satisfied with them at this point. Getting a little philosophical this episode about our content. It does kind of remind me, before I started recording today, I watched the music video for, I think, maybe the first time. It looked a little familiar, so maybe not the first time. But also I wanted the extra ball, but that's fine. 7 mil is fine. I think it was the first time I've seen this video. The music video for Stacy's Mom by... I already forgot the artist. Whatever, you know the song. Yeah, and I don't know why I was surprised that the main character in the video is a kid. I feel like I knew that, but like, he is explicitly a kid. I think, and here's the thing, I think this ties into one of the comments I saw on the video. It was the classic, oh, this would never get made today, which I don't necessarily agree with that song. Actually, I kind of agree with it, but not 100%. So, right, the main character in the song Stacy's Mom is a kid. And obviously the plot of the song is that this kid is sexually attracted to Stacy's mom, his friend's mom, and this girl is trying to, you know, Stacy is trying to be his girlfriend, but he's more interested in Stacy's mom, right? In my head, it was always the main character was a little older, right? Not like the 13-year-old or so that they show in the video, but like at least like 16 or 17. Because that's... I don't know. I mean, well, A, it's slightly more comfortable for me to think about, because yes, I am aware that puberty hits at 12 for young men, often. I was a teenager a young male teenager myself at one point, so I realized that. But, like, the song itself, by itself, this is less apparent with the video, but the song by itself does actually make it seem like this kid has a chance with the mom. Which I get is kind of the point of the song. It's supposed to be like, this kid is basically daydreaming and wishing, fantasizing basically about Stacy's mom. Which, you know, happens. But yeah, by itself, I feel like the song is like saying, like, yeah, there could be a chance, you know, there could actually be a chance. And if that's the case, then the kid being a little older is slightly more comfortable for a thought for me. Like, ideally, you would be over the age of 18, but, you know. It's a strange idea. So, and okay, to tie this back to the other point I said earlier about why that comment isn't totally right, I think Stacy's mom stylistically probably wouldn't be made the same because, you know, it's like a early mid 2000s pop song, I think, if I remember right. Stacy's mom, I don't remember. It's old. It's an old song. And we just don't write music the same way as we used to, for better or worse. But I think the theme is kind of an evergreen theme, because I honestly think that people like MILFs more now than they did when that song was written. So, like, yeah, it wouldn't, stylistically, it wouldn't be the same. And the theme would be slightly different because I think the main character would be aged up to probably be a legal adult, as well as, you know, Stacy. Basically, just add like 6 years to every character's age, and that would be the song that was written nowadays. So yes, it would be different, but the theme of, you know, liking an older woman would still be there. Right? Because just, I don't think, I don't think people are quite as ready to talk about, you know, pubescence nowadays and the sexual awakening that happens at that time, as they were back then, weirdly enough. I came to the conclusion, basically, that people now are more talk about adult sexuality a lot more and teenage sexuality a lot less, which you could argue is probably for the better, but it is what it is. You know, that's just the cultural climate as I see it. But hey, maybe our conversations won't be so heavy next time. Because, as for this episode, that's a wrap. Baby, can't you see? You're just not the girl for me.